greening campus criteria. I will give you an overview of what I am going to present in this whole session. What is actually sustainable development? Because any criteria, whether we take the UNEP criteria.
Make it full speed, sir.
Beg your pardon? Okay, full screen. Are the slides visible to all of you?
Sir, you do slide presentation, sir. Shift F5.
Okay, shift right.
F5, sir. Shift F5.
Shift F5. Yes. Now is it visible?
Good.
So the layout of my presentation is in such a way that first we will be taking up what is sustainable development, then why do we need to green our campuses and universities, then what is the criteria for greening the campus and university. Then we will discuss in a little bit detail about this UNEP toolkit for greening universities. Then we will elaborate on this UI Green Metric University World Ranking, which is the most recent one and the most popular one for ranking. And UNEP is more focused on an individual university, or you can say on an individual campus. Then we will be taking up what steps the faculty members can, when they go back to their respective institution, how they can initiate this green campus program in their institute. And so there is a set of questions which we can discuss. So let us start. Before I start my presentation, there is some quotations from renowned pupils like Mahatma Gandhi, as he rightly, very truly said that Earth provides enough to satisfy every man's need, but not every man's greed. So if we follow this, we can move towards sustainability pathway. Then another quote by Albert Einstein is that whatever product we can solve our problems with we cannot solve our problems with the same thinking when we used to create that product. And it is true for most of the products which we are manufacturing. Then finally, if we don't have a sustainable planet, like living in this earth will become a hell for us. Now, is this sustainability a national issue or a global issue or a regional issue? So first of all, I would say that this is an issue at all levels. You cannot only say that it is a global issue. It is not only global issue, it is a national issue, it is a regional issue, it is a district level issue, it is an institutional issue. And of course, we have to work in an integrated manner to make all the different these levels towards sustainability. So, and what is sustainability is, we will be coming more with the appropriate definition. But here I will say that it's basically we are trying to promote our prosperity and well-being while protecting all the biotic and abiotic sources, whether they are flora and fauna, whether it is our lithosphere, hydrosphere, atmosphere. So it's not only a global issue, it covers the different levels, whether it is national, regional, or district level. Then you see here, it is a decentralized sustainability model. And we are saying that it is the simultaneous pursuit of human health and happiness, the environmental quality which we desired or we achieve, and the economic well-being for current and our future generations. So again, it is a simplified way to express the sustainability. Then coming to the specific definition, and which is very commonly used globally, which was given by OECD, that sustainability is nothing but to meet the needs of the present generation without compromising the ability of future generation to meet their own needs. Here we are talking about the natural resources which we have, and sustainability cannot work in isolation. We cannot say that economic development is sustainability, or societal development is sustainability, or environmental achievement is sustainability. In fact, sustainability is a combination of social, environmental, and different economic factors, and they work hand in gloves with each other to provide a truly beneficial opportunity. So we cannot visualize sustainability into identical entities like economy, society, or environment. They are very well mingled with each other, or you can say integrated with each other. Then how this concept, how this sustainability evolved, from where did it came out? So if you see this table, initially in 1950s, when there were health and safety issues related to employees who were working in industries, or there were trade unions. So these were the drivers. In 1950, the focus was only on occupational health and safety. Then in 1950s came up this OSHA standard of 18001, which is also known as Occupational Health and Safety Management System Standards. And again, it is a global standard, a voluntary standard. Then in 1970s, when the client were more aware about the product quality, then came the concept of quality control. And this was globally regularized, including in India, by adopting this international standards 9001, or you can say the 9000 series. This 9001 is used basically for auditing. So when the focus was in 1970s on product quality, so we adopted this standard. Then in 1990s, the focus was more on environmental issues, whether related to air emissions, wastewater discharge, or solid hazardous waste management. So this standard came up environmental issues, which is your ISO 14001. We have a series of ISO 14000 standards. But here, if you see, ISO 14001 is basically the standard on which we certify that industry. Here, I would also like to share with you that these standards are not mandatory. These standards are not mandatory, they are voluntary. And they can be implemented in any organization, whether it is an industry, whether it is an institution, or whether any organization is involved in providing services. So this standard is applicable to different sectors. And of course, the different scale of industries, whether there are medium scale industries, large scale industries, or small scale industries. Then in 2010, this concept of sustainability started to pick up. Now, if you see here, something is missing in terms of sustainability. Is basically they started calling sustainability by saying that it is an integration of the environmental aspects, health aspects, safety aspects, and energy aspects. But still, we were not integrated. We were not integrating it with the economic issues. We were not integrating with societal issues. So we were only saying that sustainability means in terms of energy sustainability, in terms of environmental sustainability, in terms of health and safety. So in 2010, this environmental sustainability originated from these three areas or disciplines: your environmental issues, energy issues, and safety issues. Of course, the objective of all these standards is basically to bring the transparencies in the working operations of the transparency in their operations and performances and practices which they are following. This slide, if you see on global sustainability, the objective here of communicating is that if you see that the line or demarcation between rich and poor is increasing day by day. Rich pupils are becoming richer day by day, and poor is getting more poorer day by day. You can see the 5 billion consumes 20% of the resources, whereas 1 billion consumes 80% of the resources. So there has to be a balance between these if for achieving global sustainability. Then if you see here, there is a new term which is known as carrying capacity. It is basically whatever resources you have to manage within a country or within a region. So they have a certain lifespan. For example, all our fossil fuel reserves, they have a certain time span after which they will be exhausted. So we have to see, we have to develop a plan for carrying capacity so that these fossil fuels are used by our future generation. Then generally, if you see around in newspapers or in media or in some news articles, you will find this very commonly used term: reduce, reuse, and recycle. And we think that this is sustainability. So I can say that this is one of the dimensions, or you can say a component of sustainability, but we cannot say that all these three terms will include the sustainability. For example, if we reduce the consumption of our natural resources, of course, it is one of the component of moving towards sustainability. Then if we reduce the production of different types of waste, whether in the form of air emissions, solid waste, in semi-solid form, or in slurry, or in wastewater. So then talking about the reuse, if we are how we can reuse the discards for alternative purpose, or many things we can reuse. Similarly, in recycling, any discard that has the potential to be recycled, everything possible instead of disposing. Now here, if you browse the internet, you will find that this term reuse and recycle, generally there is a perception that reuse means that we are recycling, or recycling means reuse. Most of the time we are confused. See, the simple demarcation between recycling and reuse is that if any waste product is generated, and if we use it again into the same process from where it came, then it is known as recycling. Either it is used as a substitute raw material in the same process, or it is been added in a certain percentage in the raw material stream, then we call it as recycling. But if we are not using it for making the same product again, and we are using it for some other purpose, then we call it as reuse. So there is a difference between recycling and reuse. These are some general indicators of sustainability. For example, whatever we are taking water in the form of surface water, or from groundwater, or different materials we are using, or the different waste we are getting, these form the indicators for knowing the sustainability of that region, or that country, or global. We have certain indices to come out. Then energy and air quality also are the parameters. Then we have transportation. Then we have transportation and different land areas, green spaces, and biodiversity. They are also the indicators for sustainability. Still, we have not reached to the sustainability related to the university campuses. This is again a general slide of how we can promote sustainability. For example, by designing smart cities, you must be aware about different Swachh, under different this Swachh Bharat program. Different schemes are there to make the cities smart. Then we can depend more on renewable energy than on the conventional sources of energy. Then by ensuring availability of clean water, especially here, this if you see this when we are talking about clean water, you would be surprised to know that 65% of the water which we are using is basically comes from our surface water bodies in India. I'm talking about in India. And 35% is basically from what we draw from underground resources. And again, to your surprise, whatever water resources we are using, 70% of the water resources are not fit for drinking. So generally, if you ask a person, he will say, no, we are extracting more water from underground. But this is what the data, government data says, that we are extracting more from surface water bodies than from water bodies. And out of that, whatever water resources we have, 70% are not fit for drinking purpose. So you see the alarming situation in India. Then provide enough food for poor. Again, it's very, very important for if you want to promote sustainability. Then social transformation by creating awareness, whether through media or different means. Then prevention and adaptability to climate change. How we can mitigate the damage done by the climate change, and how we can adapt in future to the changing climatic conditions. Then if you see this picture, a term has been used, prompt. And this prompt term you will find in different packings, whether aluminum cans, milk cartons, plastic bottle, glasses. Prompt is nothing but, you see here this symbol, this is done to basically tell you what you have to do with that product. So a prompt is something to remind people what sustainable actions they have to take with the product which they are using. Again, this is a societal solution. Then what does a green campus mean? So this is another, if you see in this slide, there is a relationship between teaching, research, operations. We can say a green university has all the three above functions, creating a synergy of sustainable activities. Then you would be wondering, what is the definition of campus sustainability? How we can define campus sustainability? Globally, if we talk about, there is no accepted definition of campus sustainability. However, there is an organization by the name of Global Reporting Initiative, popularly known as GRI, which defines in terms of basically it is an integration of environmental issues, economic issues, and societal issues. The same figure which was discussed earlier. And we can say that campuses have to create their own definition of sustainability. Campuses have to create their own definition of sustainability. So finally, we can conclude there is no accepted definition of campus sustainability. Now, what are the benefits of having a green campus or university? Basically, the objective is, or you can say the benefit will include promoting the efforts of universities to keep the environment green and sustainable. Then there will be a commitment to manage the climate changes. Then to encourage the use of energy efficient appliances. Then how we can conserve water and energy. Then use of environment friendly transportation like e-vehicles, then reducing the carbon footprints. Now, so far we have understood what is sustainability, how it evolved, what actually is campus sustainability. Then moving to the two tools which are, I will not say that UNEP is very common because it was formulated in 2013, but the objective of formulation was not to compare one university with another university, or it was meant for, you can say, universities who are in developed country or developing country, or universities who are in Asia or in India. It was basically to basically do a specific evaluation of one own's how they are moving towards sustainability. So it's basically focused on one university, or you can say a specific university, be focused through this UNEP Green Campus criteria. So it is not applicable if we want to. Of course, we can compare by making certain indicators, but as such, it is not used for comparison. Now, how you have to approach this criteria? Basically, what they have done is the actual condition and what should be the ideal conditions they are compared with each other, and they assign certain numbers. For example, these here we have 5 scoring levels, 1 to 5. We are saying that we don't have any policy related to that particular indicator. Okay, or the policy is under preparation, or policy is initial implementation, or policy is implemented with some problems, or policy is in full implementation. Now, let me first discuss what is policy. Actually, what people think is that policy is a term which is mandatory. No, it's not mandatory. You have to remember that policy is not mandatory. It is a voluntary statement of commitment, which is generally documented by the organization. Here, in case of university, it is documented, and they try to basically build upon that commitment towards the sustainability issue. And if you see what here they have done is they have for the 5 scoring criteria, you see, who are not good, moderate, good, very good. So they have come up with a scoring criteria and it is assigned to each indicators of sustainability. Either we can use this one or we can use both of them, like this one. So they have different scoring criteria. Now, I will not go exhaustively into the UNEP's criteria, but the important, or you can say the initial 5 to 10 set of indicators or components I have taken place here in the slides. So they have broadly divided into, for example, energy, carbon, and climate change is one of the broad indicators. Then under this heading, there are further sub indicators, like, for example, energy conservation. Under energy conservation, there are certain points, like, for example, here, whether that university or campus has employed an energy manager for managing the energy issues of the campus or university. Then, do they have energy efficiency standards related to construction and repair works, or do they have energy efficiency purchasing standards when they are purchasing equipments for the university? Then staff energy conservation training program, how they go about it, at what levels they are doing this energy conservation training program, at what levels they are doing. Then improved space utilization to avoid new construction or heating cooling of underutilized space. This is one of the points under this criteria. Then related to thermal comfort, how they are going to optimize the heating and cooling temperatures. Then what financial strategies are there to basically, and how they are documenting the savings which are incurred out of this managing the energy. Then what are the climate change awareness programs or related to energy? Then is there any establishment of energy champions network across campus building? So this is all under your energy conservation. Then under the same category, there is a subcategory of energy efficiency. Here it was energy conservation. Here it is related to energy efficiency. For example, whether detailed energy audit has been conducted, and if it is conducted, is it for the whole campus or for certain departments or for certain areas or administrative buildings? Then is a periodic optimization of energy efficiency takes place? Do they have this system in place? Then building retrofitting to make them more energy efficient. Then how they are optimizing their whole lighting system, how they are reducing their heating and cooling loads through this management of HVAC, like, for example, 5-star rating equipment which they are using. Then about ventilation and fume modes in the laboratory, then installation of building management and control system, also having the sub-metering for major building energy uses, and is there any mechanism to display whatever energy has been used? Then the third subcategory under energy, carbon, and climate change is your renewable and alternative energy. So here it is looked into whether that university is purchasing green power, certified green power, or how much they have installed in their campus related to your solar energy systems, wind energy systems, biomass based system or biogas systems. What then about installation of cogeneration system where we simultaneously use heat and energy. Then fuel switching, how they are dependent on conventional fuels and what is the alternative to conventional fuels, how they are basically adding to the renewable sources, how much percentage they are using the renewable sources. Then how the university is managing its vegetation program to basically reduce the greenhouse gas emissions. And finally, from that scoring from 1 to 5, they come up with the score for under this criteria of energy, carbon, and climate change. From energy comes your water. Under water, it is bifurcated again, sub-classified related to the water conservation measures which are taken in the plan in the campus or university. For example, does that university have a separate water manager, or it can be combined with energy manager also if that person has the expertise to manage energy resources as well as water resources, then he can be employed, they can be common. Then water efficiency standards, do they have water efficiency standards related to new construction and retrofittation or modification in the campus? Then water efficiency purchasing standards, are they following it? Then what water conservation, basically the measures in terms of training and capacity building has been taken or undertaken. Then what the financial benefits have been obtained by saving the water in the campus, the quantitative in terms of you can say the financial savings. Then what water conservation awareness programs are there in the form of posters, stickers, events and competitions, websites, awards and incentives, how the university is moving by adopting these, most of them or any one of them. Then do they have water champions for water conservation, whether at faculty level, whether at student level, whether at administrative level? So these water champions can be from different levels, different staff levels, student level. Then after water conservation is your water efficiency. So has the campus conducted a water audit of their whole campus or a part of their campus? And have they come out, have they prepared the water balance diagram to identify the important areas where those areas who are water intensive? Then does the campus has a maintenance program for detection and repair of faulty equipments to prevent leakages or spillage or wastage? Then retrofitting of water saving devices, what they have done, how the existing water devices have been modified to make them basically in terms of water saving. Then underground pipe leak detection, how they are managing it, how they are repairing the underground leaks, water piping leakage. Then use of pervious paving, basically those paving by which when the especially during the monsoon season, when we have heavy rains, how the water is getting drained. If we have more pervious pavings, then the more water can be recharged to the ground. If we have more impervious paving, then there are lesser chances of getting recharged in the ground. Then specification of low water use species for campus grounds. Again, similar to energy, here also we can install the control systems to measure how much quantity of water is going into the water intensive equipments or systems or instruments, or in the buildings where those buildings who are water intensive, and we can also measure them and it's easily measurable. Then after water conservation, water efficiency, we have water reuse and recycling. Now you know the difference between reuse and recycling. So basically how much rainwater we can capture and we can recover from roofs and other surfaces if we have more pervious layers, we can recharge it more, and how we can basically use the other sources of water, for example, which the water which we are using for in toilet flushings or for construction work or in swimming pools, how we can use that water. Then how we can reduce our dependence on pore water, and we can use it for some non-potable purpose. Potable is basically the water which is fit for drinking. So here how we can maximize the usage of in terms of non-potable uses. And aquifer is nothing but the water bearing strata from where we get our underground water. Then by installing water recycling systems to treat the kitchen wastewater, laundry or shower water, what we are doing, how we can recycle that water back, or we can reuse it for some other purpose. Then composting toilets so that it is suitable as a biofertilizer. Then installation of water recycling system to treat the sewage from the whole campus. Now comes the waste, whether in the form of solid waste or semi-solid waste, or it can be in the form of hazardous waste. So you see here, the subcategory is the policy and behavioral change. So does the campus has employed any or designated any post for managing the waste or employed a waste manager? Then do they have sustainable procurement standards? How to basically recycle the waste products? Then what financial gains they are getting out of it by the waste which they are generating? Then how they can reduce that waste, and in terms of quantitative terms, how much they are saving. Then waste management awareness programs, how much have been conducted and at what levels it has been conducted. Then the programs which are targeted towards teaching and research to minimize generation of hazardous waste. See here under waste, this was related to policy and behavioral change. So under this category, the second is your how we are managing the waste of the campus. So before we manage the waste, we should know how to characterize the waste, like what are the physical composition of that waste, what are the chemical composition of waste, what are the biological characteristics of that waste. So one needs to characterize the waste, then identify from which stream what type of waste is coming, then what steps we can do to minimize the generation of that waste so that the waste stream has the least negative impact to the environment. Then we have performance-based waste management contracts, which is generally given to a third party to basically whatever resource they can recover. Then is there any in-campus collection of all the recyclables, for example, discarded papers and cardboards? It will have, especially in India, we have these small, or we call them in unorganized sectors or rag pickers. Then provision of storage spaces. Is there adequate spaces inside the campus for storing the different type of waste, or spaces for storing the recyclables? Then what about managing the hazardous waste? If we don't have proper storage for these hazardous waste, then there are chances of either spillage or leakage. Then they have used this term of closing the loop. Like closing of the loop means what we are doing related to the waste. Are we recycling it back? What is the waste exchange and reuse programs going on in the campus? We are calling it as closing the loop. Then on-site composting of food waste and garden waste. Once we compost it, we will be able to get a good biofertilizer out of that. Then campus-based programs to process collected recyclables. Then we have total score on waste criteria. If you recall that there was a scoring from 1 to 5, once corresponding to each component or point, we have placed the points 1 to whatever the status is, and then finally the total score related to this part of waste criteria become up. Then there is another category of biodiversity and ecosystem services, which is related to, again, they have classified into policy design and development, which relates to survey of the biodiversity or the ecosystem of the campus, then extension of the green spaces in the campus, then how we can increase the campus vegetation by plantation, then how we can enhance the diversity of vegetation, then does the campus has a biological wastewater treatment system, or how we can make the existing landscape more productive, then how we can restore the landscapes for recreation, then campus grounds and green infrastructure which can be used for teaching and research purpose. So these are the points under this head. Then we have management and maintenance. For example, preserve significant vegetation during building works. What measures they are taking for this. Then finally, the total score on biodiversity and ecosystem service. Now, from onwards here, I will be only giving you the broad categories rather than going into the depth, because considering the time, we have to also discuss the most popular UI green metric system. Therefore, we will be limiting our discussion on this further. So they have another heading related to planning, design and development of the campus, how campus is planned, how the building design is done in the campus, what are the construction management steps taken in the campus, then the overall score related to planning, design and development. I have skipped the further subcategories or points under campus planning, campus building and design, campus construction and management. Then related to procurement, how we can make the procurement sustainable for the university, like when we are developing the specifications for purchasing any equipment, instrument, how we are bringing it in the specification, then how we are bringing it in doing tender or bid evaluation, then how we can do it in contract management, then finally the total score related to procurement. Then related to green office, does the campus has a policy and behavioral change? Under this, there are further sub points. Then office practices, there are certain points. Then finally, the total score of a green office, how much we are getting from these points. Similarly, how we can go about developing green lab. Again, policy and behavioral change, there are certain points. Then what laboratory practices can be followed, then how we can maintain the lab in terms of green lab, then finally what score we are getting. Then green information technology, again there is a subcategory of policy and behavioral change, how we are managing the information technology management, then finally the total score. Last one is related to transport. Now most of the point which we have skipped here, you will see in the World University ranking again in detail, the bifurcation of further points related to transportation or related to some of the points here. Now this is the right now I can say like Google, it is the most popularly used world ranking of universities, and it was started in 2010. And this UI is your Universitas Indonesia. It was initiated by a university in Indonesia in 2010, and later it came to be known as UI Green Metric World University Ranking. And here the objective is to basically measure the campus sustainability efforts. So you can see that the focus is on sustainability issues. Now it is basically an online survey to describe the sustainability policies and programs for different universities around the globe. Then the ranking is again based on the framework of sustainability, which are environment, economy, and equity. So there are ranking indicators in different categories, and weightage is assigned to each one of them. The data is the data collection and submission is simple. Of course, data collection and submission are simple, but you have to give evidence of whatever you are claiming while placing the scores in that table or in the file, or the points when we are assigning the weightage. Initially in 2010, only 95 universities participated from 35 countries. And there's a breakup of how much were from America and Europe and Asia and Australia. But you see in 2019, from 95, it has risen to 780 universities. So you see the popularity of this ranking. And from 35 countries, it has increased to 85 countries. Now 85 countries and 780 universities have participated in the last year's World University Ranking on Sustainability. So this year it is right now open, and once you go back to your respective institutions, you can see their website and try how you can fill the criteria for this ranking and involve yourself with this ranking criteria. The theme in 2020 is related to universities' responsibility for sustainable development goals and the world's complex challenges. And the focus is on university's effort, what university is doing related to sustainable issues by looking into the details of the efforts made by the universities and the impact which they have brought in improving the campus sustainability and sustainable development goals. The objective of green metric ranking is basically to come out with academic debate on sustainability in education and greening of the campus. Then second objective is basically to promote a social change with, in the campus with regard to sustainability goals. The third objective is to assess the campus sustainability for higher education institutions globally. Then since this result is available in public domain, so basically it can inform the government or international organizations or local environmental organizations, including the society, about what sustainability programs are there in the campus. Now, if one goes for doing a ranking under this UI green metric, so what benefits that university can have is basically they will be known, they will be recognized internationally, they will be recognized globally. Then their awareness level related to sustainability issues will be increased. Then they can bring us social change, and plus there is an ample opportunity of networking with different universities, and all universities worldwide have a strong commitment to sustainability issues. They are eligible to participate in this annual global ranking. So it is open for all universities worldwide who have or who have done something related to sustainability of their campus. Then if you see under this international and national recognition, if a university participates, then what benefits it can have. For example, participation will help the university's efforts in international recognition by getting its sustainability efforts on a global map. So whatever efforts that university has done, it will be globally available to different countries, to the staff of different universities globally. Then the participation, if we participate, then our university website can have increase in the hits or popularity, or more mention of institution related to sustainability issues on different web pages. Then different universities may contact you or will start contacting to get more details about the sustainability issues related to the campus, and there is an opportunity for networking. Then under increasing awareness of sustainability issues, if we are going for this ranking, then we have an opportunity to participate and increase our awareness in the university and know more about sustainability issues. As you know that these are the major problems right now the world is facing in terms of global problems, are your global warming and overexploitation of natural resources, and fossil fuel dependent energy, and shortage of food and water. So all these are pressing problems. So we can address through this initiative. Then ranking involves comparing efforts in education for sustainable development, sustainability research, campus greening, and social outreach. So basically, there is a provision of you can rank based on different indicators. You can see and compare the levels of different universities in terms of sustainability, sustainability research, or campus greening. Then they can bring social change and action also. For example, ranking is about awareness raising and implementation at decentralized or small level, but in future it is going to be adapted to encourage implementation of emerging national and global challenges, because these institutes or universities are basically educational hubs, and once any student or through this platform, university platform, it is going to make a major breakthrough in the policies of the government at national level, or including an impact at the global level. So you can visit this website to see how many universities have participated so far. They will give you the trends of the last 10 years. Then you can log in, and all the details are available here. There are one thing is that they have 35 universities from 25 countries who are acting as the national coordinators for this World University Ranking. This is basically the more universities you have, the more different countries are involved, the more transparency is involved in evaluation or decision making related to ranking. And you see currently there is a network of 780 participating universities of Asia, Europe, Africa, Australia, America, and Oceania. And you see, with the help of their efforts in the last 9 years, this much is the amount in US dollars which has been spent on research funds on environment and sustainability. You can see the huge amount is there related to research funds on environment and sustainability. Now, how this green metric world ranking has been developed? What is the basis of developing this? So this is again, it is they have followed certain criteria, and they have reviewed the already existing criterias and the different rating systems. For example, the concept of they have reviewed the concept of triple bottom line and incorporated in it. Then the 3 E's, equity, economy, and environment, has been referred. Then green building points have been addressed. Then education for sustainable development has been addressed. Then there is another international sustainability award by the name of Holcim Sustainability Award. So they have reviewed while formulating this World University Ranking parameters. Then leadership in energy and environment design, which is very popular and it's known as in short form LEEDS program. Then sustainability tracking, assessment, and rating system, and college sustainability report card. You can get the details on the internet related to these specific rating systems if you want to know more about them. Then they have given their own concept. Again, it is based on the concept of sustainability. You can see the role of environment related to natural resources, environmental management, and pollution prevention. Again, the social aspect they have taken into account, like education, community, social involvement. Then from economic point of view, profit and cost savings, all are they are reflected in their indicators. So basically they are following the sustainability concept. Now, further moving to the documents which from where they have come up with this document, they have also referred the Times Higher Education World University Rankings. It's funded by Thomson Reuters. Then QS World University Rankings, then Academic Ranking of World Universities, then Webometrics Ranking of World Universities. So they have reviewed all these rankings also before formulating the parameters. Now, initially, when it was started, there were only 23 indicators, and they were used only, there were 5 categories to calculate the ranking score. It was very simple. But in 2011, they increased the indicator from 23 to 34 indicators. Then in 2012, they added an indicator related to smoke-free and dust-free campus environment. It was basically removed and shifted in some other points. And 33 indicators were used to evaluate green campus only. So they increased the indicators to 33 for evaluating only green campus. Then indicators were also categorized into Here there were 5 categories, then they increased to 6 categories, and they included education criteria. Then formation of a new category in 2012, they created a new category for sustainability, education, and research. So you see why I'm showing you this trend, because this UNEP, once they did it, they brought a second version in 2014. But you see here on an yearly basis, based on the feedback of different universities, they are modifying or updating their indicators. And you see in the last 3 years how they are modifying their indicators and increasing different indicators. Then in 2015, they introduced the concept of carbon footprint, and 2 questions related to energy and climate change section were added, and the methodology was improved by adding a few sub-indicators that were related to water and transportation. Then in 2017, a major change was brought in the methodology by considering new trends in sustainability issues. So you see, except in 2016, almost every year they have tried to modify their ranking approach by elaborating on the different indicators and sub-indicators. Then in 2018, the theme was Universities' Impacts and Sustainable Development Goals. In 2019, the theme was Sustainable University in a Changing World: Lessons, Challenges, and Opportunities, and more explanation about smart building indicators were introduced in 2009. So this year, I've already in my previous slide shown you the theme of this year. Then World University Ranking is trying to, in this year, it is trying to assess the impact that university can have in their effort towards planning a green campus. Then what is the, when we are evaluating the different scores along with the evidences, who are the team members, one should know. Like the team member come from various academic backgrounds and experiences. They are from the stream of environmental sciences, from environmental engineering, from architecture. They are architects and urban designers. They are computer engineers. They also come from dentistry, in the field of dentistry, then public health, then from statistics area, then chemistry, physics, and cultural studies. And there are other areas also. Now, this is the metric which has been followed for 2020 ranking. You see, broadly, they have classified into 6 categories. And the weightage given to each of the category is mentioned, and we can say the percentage of points we are saying. For example, they have given out of 100, they are giving 15% importance to the campus setting and its infrastructure. Then energy and climate change, they are giving the most weightage to energy and climate change related to the campus. Then it comes under the second highest in terms of points. Waste and water, they have given a lower number of the water side, it's only 10. Then transportation is on higher side, 18%, then education on 18%. If you see that 3 categories are given equal weightage of 18, highest is related to energy and climate change, and least is related to water. Now we will take one by one. Setting an infrastructure, for example, the weightage was 15%. Now they are assigning scores to this 15%. For example, 300 score, maximum score is the ratio of open space area to total area of the campus. Like how much open space is there in the campus to the total area of the campus. Then the total area of the campus, which is covered in forest vegetation. I would like to here again mention that all these indicators are relative, because absolute numbers will not lead anywhere when we are trying to compare or to rank the different universities. Therefore, all these indicators are relative indicators. How much area on campus is covered in with plantation, then how much area of the campus is available for water absorption, especially in rainy season, besides the forest and planted area, then how much open space area to the total campus population. Here we are dividing the open space area to the total campus population, then how much percentage of university budget is assigned for sustainability efforts within a year, like in the last 1 year, how much has been allocated. So the total score is 1500, weightage is 15%. Then energy and climate change was the maximum weightage, 21%. Sports, you also see it goes up to 2100. And what are the parameters, sub parameters here, like energy efficient appliance usage, how they are using energy efficient appliances, then smart building implementation, the number of renewable energy sources on the campus, then the total electricity usage divided by total campus population in terms of kilowatt hour per person, because all the units should be in one unit so that there is a similarity for comparison. Then ratio of renewable energy production to the total energy usage per year. Then elements of green building implementation as reflected in all construction and renovation policies. Then greenhouse gas emission reduction program. Then finally, under this category, the 8th point is total carbon footprint to the total campus population in metric tons per person. And they have given the formula also how you can calculate the carbon. So it's very easy. There is a sample example given and one can easily calculate. This was not in the UNEP manual. You had to do on your own. Then your third category related to waste, weightage is 18%. And here we are addressing the recycling programs for the different waste which are generated in the campus. Then the program which can reduce the use of paper and plastics in the campus. Then how they manage their organic waste, inorganic waste, hazardous waste, how they are managing the sewage. So here equal weightage is given to all the waste streams and the total score is 1800. Then water weightage is 10%. Here we are addressing water conservation program and how it is being implemented in the campus. Then what are recycling programs which have been implemented in the campus? What are the water efficient appliances which are being used in the campus? Then how much water, treated water is consumed within the campus? Then related to transportation, weightage is 18% and there are different scores. Total number of vehicles, cars and motorcycles to the total campus population. Then shuttle services, zero emission vehicles, policy on campus, number of zero emission vehicles to the total campus population. Then ratio of ground parking area to campus area. Then program to limit or decrease the parking area on campus for the last 3 years data has to be provided for this year. Then number of initiatives to decrease private vehicles in the campus, pedestrian path on the campus. Then on education and research, weightage is 18%. The ratio of sustainability courses which have been introduced in different courses or subjects, the ratio of sustainability research funding to total research funding. Number of scholarly publications on sustainability, number of events related to number of events like workshops, seminar, conferences that have been organized related to sustainability, the number of student organizations which have been formulated in the campus for sustainability. Then the is there any special website or separate website on sustainability? Then related to is there any sustainability report of that university? So this was all about, so we had 6 broad categories. Then scoring and weighting, you already saw corresponding to each parameter. Scoring for each parameter is a numeric so that data can be processed statically easily. Then scores are simple counts of things or responses on a scale of some sort. Each criteria is categorized in general class of information, and when the results are processed, the raw scores are weighted to give a final calculation. So it's basically an Excel based file and one can easily input and get out the outcome. You can see immediately what is the outcome of these numbers. This we have already discussed how in 2010 only 95 industries participated, and now in 2019 there are more than 780 universities which have participated in this program. So this is a table related to the global ranking of 2019, last year data. What was the ranking? If you see, Wageningen University and Research from Netherlands was ranked number 1. This with having this much score. University of Oxford in UK stood on this in the second rank with a certain score. Then University of California, Davis in USA stood third. University of Nottingham, UK was placed fourth. Nottingham Trent University was placed fifth. And you see, in out of this 780 participating universities, University of Information Technology and Communication. This university was the last, and the rank was 780, and they got a score of only 550. So similarly, this was for 2019. And if you see, I have compiled for the last years to show the trend, whether that particular university kept that place or they moved down towards or upwards. You can see in the next slide. In 2018, see, the first place was in 2018. It has been maintained in 2019 also. Similarly, by University of Nottingham, they have come from fourth position to, they have come down from second position. Similarly, University of California, you see, they have maintained their position, third rank. Then University of Oxford, I think it's new, yes, earlier they were second. Now in 2018, they are ranked on fourth. So they have increased their place. Nottingham Trent University, it was earlier 5 also, here also it is 5. This University of Applied Science and Technology was the last in 2018, 719 rank, and they had this much score. Now you see here in 2017, again the same place was maintained by like for the last 3 years. You can see the trend that they are maintaining number 1 position. University of Nottingham was placed in 2017 on second, California Davis again on third. New entry of University of Bradford on fourth place, and Nottingham Trent University again on fifth place. One university from Indonesia, University Muria Kudus, was ranked last, 619 ranking, and got this much score. So that was related to the global information. Now these slides are specifically for Asian countries. So in Asia, the first position was awarded to China. Bifang Institute of Technology of China, they were ranked first. Then Indonesia University stood to second position. University Putra Malaysia was third, and this Iraq University of Information Technology in Iraq last. In 2018, again China was there, and Shandong Normal University, Lishan College was placed first, followed by Universitas Indonesia, and the third place was by again a Malaysian university. Last was University of Applied Science and Technology in Iran. So in 2017, the same Chinese university repeated the first rank, then second was again to Indonesian University, University in Indonesia. Then this another Malaysian university was placed third. Then this university, Muria Kudus, was again placed last. They got the 237th rank in 2017. Then coming to India, to your surprise, although many central universities they had applied, including IITs, but you will see the trend. Like in 2019, the first position was of Manipal Academy of Higher Education, followed by Bangalore University, then followed by SRM University. So Tamil Nadu Dr. MGR Medical University was placed in the last. So 20 only you can see only 26 universities participated in this global, and out of that you can see the top 3 here. In 2018, Indian Institute of Information Technology and Management, Gwalior MP, they got the first position. Manipal Academy of Higher Education, they were ranked second, and Bangalore University got the third rank. Again, Tamil Nadu Dr. MGR Medical College was last, getting a rank of 26. In 2017, again, Indian Institute of Information Technology and Management, Gwalior was placed first. Manipal Academy was second. Bangalore University was third, and Tamil Nadu Dr. MGR Medical College last 23rd rank. So you can, based on these slides, which university maintained its rank in the last 3 years at global level, you can easily infer out of it which university maintained its rank in the last 3 years in Asia. You can know from the Asian scenario, then in India also, now you know. Now there is a question that there is a no definite answer of how to green the campus. Okay. Reason is like for example, presently all the university campuses, they are still in early phase of sustainability. And if you see the characteristic of each and every campus is unique or different in terms of its location, in terms of its size, or in terms of its diversity, or in terms of the their missions. So they are all varying. Then universities differ with regard to their level of awareness. And for example, in developed countries, they may be very aware, but in developing countries, they are not much aware. And again, commitment to sustainability, again, it depends on the developed and developing aspect. Budget also, you can see budget, developed countries, they spend a lot of amount in their universities as compared to a developing country. And amount of green cover, they also have very high as compared to a developing country in their campus. And there are other factors are also there. Now, if you want to learn, because of this limited time span of 1.5 hours, I like in my previous presentation, I used to show one case study from the best universities, the second best university. So you can easily browse the global universities who are best in what they have done actually. One should try to know what approach they did for making their campus green. You can search for different universities at global level or Asian or in Asia or in India. Like for IIT Roorkee, they have come up with their own sustainability program and it is posted on their website. You can download those presentation slides and see what measures they have taken. So, so far we have learned about the different approaches, how we can go about greening our campus. One was at a global level, another is basically specific to a particular university. Then what we can do as a teacher or as an individual in our university or campus, like once we have gained a background knowledge of this criteria for greening the campus, we can research what other universities have are doing or what they have done. We can come up with an action plan and try to implement that action plan. Now I will give you some steps. These are the 6 steps for campus sustainability. The most we will discuss each step one by one. For example, first step is your commitment to sustainability. Then second is your formulation of sustainability committee. Then what immediate policies measures can be taken. Then step 4 is your developing an action plan. Then step 5 is implementing that action plan. And once we are implementing, we can know what drawbacks are there in our plan, which we came up. So we can modify our action plan in step 6. So step 1 is nothing but the commitment from the institution or determination towards sustainability. Defining institutions, campus sustainability definition. As I told you in my previous slide that there is no specific definition related to campus sustainability. One has to define its own sustainability definition. Then commitment greatly increases the likelihood that actions will be taken. If there is no commitment, especially from the top management, then there are chances that successful sustainable development plans will not be implemented successfully. Then once you have a formulation of sustainability committee, then a task can be assigned to that committee. The structure of that committee is very important. And another thing is the influence of the committee. If you keep the committee members in the rank, if they are not on a higher position, then they will not be able to influence the different departments of the campus to implement the sustainability approach. Then immediate policies, action plans, walks too slow. What are immediate policies? What long-term policies we can prepare? What medium-term policies we can prepare in the action plan? And these are some of the examples, very commonly used examples. Then in step 4, when we are developing our action plan, how we can start? We can start by taking the inventory of the campus, analyzing the data, identifying the problem areas, Then we set the targets and goals, identify the possible solutions, and then create or modify the action plan. Then in action plan, step 4, once we have identified the problems in terms of energy, water, waste, we will basically we have to implement that action plan. So basically step 5 and 6 is related to demonstration of the progress, to identifying new problem areas, to implementing the sustainable solutions which have been identified. Again, there are certain limitations. For example, there may be limitations of time, then manpower constraint is there, then expertise is also a constraint, and then focusing on environmental issues for campus sustainability. Then development of suitable matrices is also very important. Matrix, if we are developing whatever work is there in progress, we have to first, that is our more priority than this sustainability work. So this is I can say a good quotation that one can see how he can play a role in this sustainability or greening our campus. So almost the presentation is over. These are some of the set of questions, but house is open. Whatever questions you like, you can intimate me through chat box so that I can reply. So these are some of the green initiatives which have been taken in our campus. For example, installation of solar water heating systems we have. Then we have a separate sewage treatment plant for managing all the wastewater from the administrative buildings, from different departments, from residential campus areas. Then we have an incinerator to treat biomedical waste. We have a well-designed rainwater harvesting system. Then we have a process of energy auditing and conservation. We have a very good green belt developed around in the campus. Then we have a eco club, and and of course environmental science is a compulsory course at UG level. So I end my presentation here. So these are the references which I have used. So thank you all of you for listening me patiently. And now I open the house for discussions and question and answer. Setting an infrastructure of category. See, one participant has asked related to the setting and infrastructure. Basically, these all information are generally available with the building department of the university. Like for example, what is the open area space area of the campus to the total area of the campus? How much area of the campus is covered with the forest vegetation? How much of the area is covered in which trees are planted or different? There is a plantation of different types have been done. Then there are certain areas on the campus, basically which are paved and unpaved. So because if we have the unpaved areas, then the water absorption will be high. Then total open space area to the total campus population, one can easily get this information. Then percentage of university budget for sustainability efforts, it is a little bit because its allocation at what level is important, whether it is at departmental level or there is a common fund. So that will depend on the university initiatives.
Yeah, good evening, sir. This is Vasudha Naidu from Mathrusri Engineering College.
Yes.
So, suppose if we prepare a green energy building, how much the
Mhm.
energy can saving of energy in terms of conventional energy, conventional building?
See, when you are talking about green building, see, again, this is a very specialized area, and you have to consult an architect or an urban designer, or if you can browse through the internet, you can see that there in India we have green building guidelines. So, whether for existing structures or whether for the structures those who are proposed to be built, so that guidelines have to be followed in terms of green building.
Yeah, it is correct, sir. But at how much the saving of energy? Maybe the suppose like 10% or 20%, because of suppose the building capital investment of you, when how many years will be retaining? Suppose the I mean management members or organizing members are, suppose we will prepare a green energy building, how many years will be return it back the amount capital of investment?
See, this is something very, I cannot say that anybody can tell you or do the exact calculation. Again, see, one important thing based on your the points which you have raised is very, very important, which I would like to share with you. That see, implementing these once you are going for greening of your campus, you should not take the whole campus in totality.
Yes.
Okay, if you see that even these different standards, whether it is ISO 14001 or OHS 18001 or ISO 50001, they are not completely implemented in an industry, okay, or even in any organization.
Yes.
They take a certain pilot area or a pilot project or a sample area, and then they implement on. So here in this case also it will depend on when you are trying to replace this more energy efficient equipments in a particular department or in the whole campus, then of course the return on investment will be different. And of course, if you know that these return on investment, they can be immediate return, they can take up to 5 years or they can go up to 7 to 10 years. It will depend how much you are investing and what when you are purchasing any equipment, the vendor or supplier will can give you these calculations that what is the ROI of that equipment or instrument. So you can have an idea before implementing that green concept, where how much ROI will be for that yeah, once you are implementing that thing or that equipment or instrument. So it's very like you cannot quantify. It will vary from one project to another.
It's okay. Thank you, sir.
Any other question related to the presentation slides or? Yes, any other question, please?
Sir, good afternoon.
Yes.
Faisal sir, good afternoon.
Yes. Very good afternoon to you. Yes, please.
If you wishes to apply for this UI Green Metric University World Ranking, so may you have option to apply as a Department of Civil Engineering or Department of Electrical Engineering AMU or AMU as a whole?
See, an individual cannot apply because either he has to get the written permission from the top authority of the university to be the nodal or focal point for going for greening of the campus. Otherwise, generally, the academic head is the main contact point, or if he assigns somebody, he can do it. But they will not allow any individual department or any center to fill this or go for ranking. So it's not a departmental ranking, it's basically a ranking at the university level. I hope I have replied to your questions.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much.
So I'm thankful to you, Faisal Saab, Dr. Faisal Siddiqui Saab, for a very nice, widely covering and interactive session. And as the participants are also reflecting in their response that they are excited about the concept and they will take it back to their institutes and they'll try to implement in the campuses. That was the idea basically behind this program, that we should be able to generate some discussion and inspire and motivate people to adopt these practices at their campuses.
Yes, Dr. Rehan, I would like to thank you again for me an opportunity to present this very, very important topic in front of the faculty of different universities and institutions.
Okay. So thank you very much, Dr. Faisal Saab. And I request the participants to kindly wait for 5 minutes only. So we have to close the program, and I have some important announcements also. So it is the closing session of the program now. So we have reached the end of this program, and over the 5 years we have 14 different sessions we had from different resource persons, and I hope it has been a good learning experience. I'm sure it has been a good learning experience for all of us. The idea was to initiate the faculty members as well as research scholars on this important area of national significance, rather I would say the international significance. So I hope that we have been able to generate interest and we have been able to convey the important developments in this area. Of course, any 5 days program cannot cover everything related to any topic. That is a challenge, but I hope we have been able to initiate the participants at least, so that they can carry on this torch and they can generate this discussion, they can carry forward this at their own institutions. So I am thankful to, first of all, I am thankful to the All India Council for Technical Education, AICTE, for this whole idea of Atal Academy. It is an extremely useful idea, and the way they have utilized this crisis as an opportunity. So they have converted this crisis into opportunity by converting the programs into online mode. So this online mode has given us this wider participation. For example, in our program, we had participants from almost 150 to 160 different institutions and around 25 different states in the country. So of course, that would not have been possible in case of a physical offline program. Although there are certain limitations of an online interaction, but likewise everything has some positives and some negatives. So this way AICTE has utilized this crisis in the form of an opportunity. They have very well developed and managed portal, which has made it easy, not only for our organizers as well as participants also. So I am thankful to AICTE. Then I would like to thank the university, especially the Vice Chancellor, Professor Tariq Mansoor Saab, under whose guidance and patronage we organized this program. And he has been the guiding force behind a lot of sustainable development, conservation projects in the campus. So I am thankful to the Vice Chancellor. I am thankful to the other important officials and their offices, Registrar and Finance Officer. I would like to thank the Dean, Faculty of Engineering and Technology, the Principal of the college and the chairperson, Department of Electrical Engineering, for all the support which they provided. Now, I'm thankful to the resource persons. Of course, you see my effort was directed towards to have a good mix of resource persons, and thankfully we were able to do that. So we had a good mix in the sense that we had speakers from academic institutions, we had speakers from industry, ministry, regulatory bodies. That was one way of mixing the speakers. Another important way we were able to mix was the age wise also. We had very senior resource persons, as well as we had some younger resource persons also. Plus, we tried to manage the gender balance also. We had tried to address that also. I would give uh, the most of the credit of successful organization and keeping everything intact in last 5 days goes to my young colleague, Mr. Mohammad Zaid, and co-coordinator. I'm thankful to him. He is a very dynamic, talented person, and I'm sure he has a very bright future ahead. I'm sure he'll be doing a lot of such programs and other activities he'll be contributing to the department. So I'm thankful to him. My PhD scholars also worked very hard in this program, so I'm thankful to Zuhaib and Hannan both. Then my office staff, Faraz especially, I thank him. And of course, any program is successful because of its participants. So I thank all the participants, and we had a good mix in these participants also. Uh, we were fortunate to have very senior people also from different institutions, and the younger ones also, the students also, faculty members also. So I thank you all for joining us in this program. And as I have mentioned, we had very good widely distributed geographically also participation, and we'll try to keep this group intact, and so that we can interact in future also. So we have already formed a WhatsApp group. We have formed an email group also. So this can become a good group on people working in the area of sustainable development. So I thank you all the participants. Now I am coming to the. Of course, we are ending the program now, but you see, since a lot of formalities are involved, so I may be communicating with you all over the next 3-4 days itself, at least, because I have to finalize your attendance. That has some criteria. I have to finalize your marks. That has some minimum criteria. And feedback, again, I would say feedback you have to give on the AICTE portal, but just for the sake of our reference, we have also designed a feedback form. So I'll be sharing a Google document to you all. So that will also form the feedback, but that will not be the final. You need to give feedback on the AICTE portal also. Now, regarding attendance and marks, you may have some apprehension, because online mode, I know we cannot talk to everybody and we cannot resolve individually. So you need not worry. I'll try my best to communicate with you, especially with those with whom I find any issue. So if anybody is short of any related to attendance or marks, I'll try to give him a chance to convey if any discrepancy is there. Then only I'll finalize on the portal. So please do not worry about that. I'll give you at least one chance to explain your if there is any issue, or if there is any mistake on our part. So we'll try to first convey, then finalize on the portal. So with this, I would like to say thank you all again, and hope we'll meet in some other program in future also. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Yeah, sir.
Thank you, sir.